Hi all, Lee Varis here with Phototech Tuesday. Each week I'll be posting a new video about photography, technology, art, and more. Today, finally recovered from our workshops at the Florida Camera Club Council conference, I'm examining one of my workshop images from my creative still life workshop. Our time for the workshop was somewhat limited, and I was only able to demonstrate the shooting portion of what I call lighting in layers. So I'm picking up where I left off to show how to assemble the complete image from the individual shots with different lighting directions brought into Photoshop. The idea is that by combining these different shots using layer blend modes, we can create impossible lighting schemes to create a kind of painterly effect. Okay, so let's take a closer look. So here in Lightroom, I've collected all the shots from a single still life setup that I was trying to do, and you can kind of see the one that I have highlighted here is the finished product. Let's take a quick look at that. This is the finished thing with all the layers that were from different shots assembled together in Photoshop. And what you have is a number of individual shots. Here's the first one, which is just sort of general ambient light, throwing light down just so I can see where everything is and compose it and all that. And then I went around and in this case I was using an LED flashlight and just illuminating specific elements in this still life to really paint the light over where I wanted it. So here I'm just shining light straight down into the glass of the bourbon, which was actually iced tea for the workshop. We didn't crack that bottle open. And here's another one where I'm shining the light down and slightly behind the bottle to kind of illuminate all that amber liquor. The cigar, and again, just using that LED flashlight. This isn't expensive stuff. I'm not using special lights with snoots and stuff like that. Just a flashlight. In this case, lighting up a white card which was placed next to the lens to kind of illuminate specifically this lighter. And here there's the light. I'm shining the light on a white card just out of frame. You can kind of see it there to the left. And that's really to just place some highlights on that lighter and along the edge of the bottle. And I'm just moving the lights around now, just kind of trying to get highlights in different places. Not really sure exactly how this is all going to work, but here the white card is actually well in the shot, but I'm not going to use that portion of this particular image in the still life. So let's take a look at this. I'm gonna bail out of Lightroom now, and one of the techniques here, the first thing you do is you assemble all your shots, do as much retouching and adjustment as you can on all of these. Then we select all of them, and then you're going to go in here, Photo, Edit In, and you will open as layers in Photoshop. Now, let me be clear about this. When you shoot these kinds of things, you have to have the camera locked down on a tripod. And it would be ideal, very serious consideration to have something like a cable release or a wireless release. A lot of mobile phone apps will talk to cameras. I use the Fuji one. And you don't want to touch the camera as little as possible. If you have a cable release, that's good. Even better is a wireless release of some kind. That way you don't actually bump the camera in between each shot. And as long as the camera stays in the tripod, it will stay registered. So we go ahead and open this up in Photoshop. And I've already opened up this project. And it's actually finished in Photoshop. So all these layers open up. And you'll present it with something like this. At the moment, you can see all these X's through these layer masks. We'll get to that later. Just pretend that those aren't there for the time being. And we want to order the layers in a way so that we can add the lighting onto the darker elements and slowly bring up the full intensity of the lighting effects. So I'm going to turn off all these layers right now. I mean, if we turn them on, we can go through each one. That's the top layer. There's actually 2 top layers with that same sort of general ambient light, and I'll explain why that is later. Here's my layer with the white card. There's that layer with a card off to the left, and I already retouched that out. I just blacked it out. There's that lighter reflection shot. Each one of these layers is contributing something to the overall effect. Okay. And we get down here. There's the general light layer again. And here's the bottom layer. I decided to put this in the bottom because it was one of the darker ones, and it's easy to add the light on top. So my first layer is I'm going to add that sort of general overall lighting on top. And normally I either use screen or lighten to add light. The difference between screen and lighten is screen lightens everything underneath it by the values in that layer. Lighten is more of a comparison blend mode where it compares what's in this layer to what's underneath it. And if it finds a lighter pixel in the current layer, then it will use that one. If it finds a lighter pixel in the underlying layer, it will use that one. So for instance, if this layer is sitting on top of that background layer where the glass was illuminated, and I'm adding this on top, in normal mode, you notice it covers it up. If I change the mode let me highlight that layer, I change the mode from normal to lighten, well, it can't make the lighter glass lighter. So that's what takes precedence. So I'm kind of going, okay, well, now I've lit up that glass, but this lighting is not really that good. It's just thrown over the objects. I'm going to reduce the opacity of this to make it look like it's sort of very low level ambient light. So I get it around, 25% or so. And that's kind of the level of lighting that I want to pursue now. So there's just a little bit of information now in the shadows, but the dominant light, of course, is the light on the glass. So our next layer is this one. Again, now we're still in blend mode here. And I want to again do the same thing and just use lighten mode. So I'm going to change the blend mode from normal to lighten. And you'll see now I'm kind of blending the 2 lighting directions together. The lighter glass here is still strong enough that it remains dominant. But now the illumination on that Pendleton bottle is coming through really strong because I'm using the lighten blend mode. Now, you may have noticed that I have these X's through the layer mask here. Let's back up a little bit. In this layer, there are certain aspects of this, like I don't like these folds showing up, and I want this all to be pretty dark. So I've created a layer mask which blocks off some of this and gives me kind of more of a vignetting effect. If you Option or Alt click on that layer mask thumbnail, you can see the layer mask in isolation. And so this is basically what I'm doing. I'm only using the center portion, and I'm kind of ramping off the rest of that layer through the layer mask, a soft edge layer mask. Let's go back to that layer now as it exists with the layer mask. And you can kind of see I'm just keeping the outside edges dark here. The next layer, I want to add that Pendleton bottle, but I don't want to have it hit certain other areas. Like I'm not really happy with the way it's spilling onto the platform of the little tray here. So I've created a layer mask, and I'm going to turn on this layer. So you can kind of see now, if we look at that layer mask separately, I've masked off those little spillover light that I didn't like hitting the tray. And so now I'm only using the highlights in the background around the edges of the glass on this little shot glass or shot measurement little cup here. And as we go along, I'm going to add each of these layers. So the next layer was the lighting for the cigar, where the flashlight's coming from camera right, and it's aiming through here and hitting the edge of the ashtray and the cigar. And I've also used a layer mask there. If I turn the layer mask on, you can kind of see what I did. Let's take a look at that layer mask. So I've blocked off little reflections and things that I didn't like, but I'm also sort of contouring the light on the cigar itself. So let's take a look at the overall effect, right? If I disable the layer mask, and you can do that by right-clicking with your mouse, or on the Mac you can hold down the Control key if you can't do this. But you can just select Disable Layer Mask, and it puts that X through it. And now we see the full effects of that layer in what we're going to change to Lighten Blend mode. Okay, so there's the Lighten Blend mode, and I'm adding the layer mask to help control some of the light that's hitting that cigar. So let's re-enable the layer mask. I'll click on it, and you can kind of see how nicely I've shaped that cigar now. I left this little highlight in there just because I thought it was kind of interesting. But you can see we're gradually building up the light in layers, one layer at a time. Here's our next layer in normal mode. I'm really putting that in there just for the highlight on this cigar lighter actually. Let's see how the layer mask works. I'm going to mask off everything that I don't like here. So click that off. And now you can see in normal mode, I've got the black edges around the cigarette lighter. All I have to do is change that to lighten mode, and I don't have to worry about the accuracy of the mask, and I still achieve that effect. I'm keeping as many highlights in this little shot glass measuring cup thing here as I can, because it's just so hard to get any light happening in there. Okay, so I go on to the next layer. Here we are in normal mode again. Let's change that blend mode right away so you can kind of see. We'll go back to lighten mode. And again, I'm just adding a few more highlights, little highlights along the edge of the bottle here, along the edge of the lighter, little sparkles hitting that measuring cup. But not all of those. I don't really like all of those highlights. So again, this is where the layer mask comes in. I'll just use the layer mask. You can again see if I solo by Option or Alt clicking on that layer mask thumbnail, that's where I painted the light in. So I really only wanted it along the edge of the cigarette lighter, along the edge of the bottle. Let's take a look at the overall effect. So you can kind of see I can get very precise with how much light I'm adding. Again, if I disable this layer mask, too much stuff is coming in. So that's why I have to use the layer mask to keep the light where I want it. I certainly didn't want it over here in the front of that ashtray. I'll disable the layer mask again. You can kind of see all of these little highlights that I don't like. I'm masking off with that layer mask. Let's move up again. My next layer here. That's what the shot looks like in normal blend mode. Obviously, I can't have that. Let's change this to lighten again. You can kind of see where all this light is flying. And I do this a lot while I'm working on this, clicking them on and off and trying to decide, okay, what do I want? I only want to reveal this layer in specific areas. So I use a layer mask. I'm not using any of that card, but I am trying to get as many of the highlights into this measuring cup as possible, and little pings of highlights along the edge of the cigarette lighter here and the edge of the bottle up here. So you can kind of see just little pings of light along the edge of the glass and into this cup here. Now, I still need more light in this cup. Where am I going to find that? Well, it turns out that is from the general ambient light. So I'm going to turn that on. There's a little more life inside of the cup here from the general ambient. So let's mask it off here. And we'll change that blend mode from normal to lighten. And now you can kind of see all I'm really doing is adding more highlights into this measuring cup, shot glass measuring cup thing. And, you know, this, because it's so circular and shiny, it's really difficult to get enough highlights in that thing to make it show up because it wants to reflect all this black. So that, again, is from that general ambient lighting layer. One more time, I'm going to throw that layer on top again. This is what it looked like normal. We change it to lighten, and now it's kind of destroyed everything again. See, it comes in and it's lightening too much. Again, the solution is to isolate it, and where am I isolating it to? Just the label, right? So if we solo the mask, I'm just painting it in over the label so that I can make a stronger kind of product statement. I want that Pendleton whiskey to really pop out. And there you have it. We've finished all the layers. My normal process when I'm shooting a still life like this is to have my laptop off to the side next to me. As I'm shooting Tethered, each layer gets assembled into Photoshop one at a time, and that allows me to kind of decide where should I move the light next. So I literally build these things up layer by layer as I go, as I'm lighting the product. Let's take a look at this in full screen mode. So there's the finished composite. Well, that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed this examination. If this presentation left you with more questions and you want to explore this topic in more detail, I have a number of video courses available on my online school at Varis.com. Look under the Education menu for online courses, and this will take you to a page where you can pick from 17 courses covering all aspects of post-production, workflow, retouching, and special effects, including my course on 21st century lighting techniques, lighting in layers in Photoshop. This course provides detailed step-by-step video instruction along with all the source files so that you can follow along with me online or download it. Well, that's it for now. Hopefully you enjoyed this examination, and hopefully this has inspired you to explore your own creative adaptations of this technique. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and ring the bell so you don't miss another Phototech Tuesday. You might consider joining us for a travel adventure. Check out our trips and in-person workshops at our website, bobbyandleesphotoadventures.com. Our next photo adventure will be our street shooting tour of the ethnically diverse neighborhoods of New York, and that's June 1st through 6th. Our last adventure for the coming year will be an amazing once-in-a-lifetime India for beginners, a first-class luxury tour, including the Taj Mahal, a glamping tiger safari, and the Pushkar Camel Festival, and that runs October 17th through 29th. Next year, we will again go to Venice for Carnival. Sign up is now live, so check out the website for more info. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you on our next adventure.